delighted to welcome you to this session of the 15th Jaipur Literature Festival, protected by Dettol Banega Swasth India. This session is presented by the Goethe Institute Max Muller Bhavan and is a part of Jaipur BookMark. It is our pleasure to present today Blue Jewellery, Private Property, Katharina Winkler in conversation with Shipra Chaturvedi. Blue jewellery is a dexterous term for a brutal possession. A name like ornaments on a woman's body, in truth the marks of violence inflicted by men. Blue Jewellery, Private Property is Katharina Winkler's debut novel. It is the disturbing and dramatic story of a violent marriage and a young woman's determination to survive. Winkler combines reportage, around 60 hours of interviews, with fiction in her first-person narrative. It is a shattering, transformative, and urgent work of fiction. In conversation with language instructor and trainer Shipra Chaturvedi, Winkler discusses the roots, mechanisms, and literature of violence. Katharina Winkler. Katharina Winkler was born in Vienna in 1979 and studied German philology and theatre studies. Blue Jewellery is her debut novel. Shipra Chaturvedi. Shipra Chaturvedi has been teaching German since 1984. She is a teacher's trainer and disseminator of Goethe Institute and coordinator, Lucknow region for the Kendriya Vidyalaya project by Max Muller Bhavan. She is the North Zone representative of INDAF. She presented a paper titled Teaching Foreign Language Bilingual in Jena, Germany in 2009. Chaturvedi participated in Sommeracademy Colloquium, Berlin, where contemporary authors presented their literary works to selected translators from across the world. She received a scholarship from Translation House, Lorraine, Switzerland in 2012, 2016 and 2019. Please feel free to send in your comments by typing them in the comment section. Do follow our social media handles to get notifications on the upcoming sessions. Please tweet using hashtag Jaipur Literature Festival 2022 and tag @JaipurLitFest. Ladies and gentlemen, Blue Jewellery, Private Property, Katharina Winkler in conversation with Shipra Chaturvedi.
Good evening, Katharina. Welcome in Jaipur Literature Festival in Rajasthan, India. On behalf of JLF, I welcome you here. Before we start our talk, I want to ask you one question. You studied philology, theatre science, and musicology in Vienna. Vienna is, as it is, a city of music lovers. So, and you embarked upon a successful career as a TV actress, film actress, and theatre actress. My question is, what motivated you to write this novel? Number one. Number two, despite of being a debut novel, the novel received a lot of appreciation for the press and you received a prize also. So, did it come as a surprise to you or you expected it to happen?
First, to my motivation. The story was part of my life, actually. I had the privilege to get to know my protagonist. When I was a 13-year-old girl, she came into the surgery of my father. He was a doctor on the landscape in a small village where I grew up. And my mother helped him in the surgery. And my protagonist came in, and my mother, and she was completely veiled. And until this time, I've never seen a completely veiled woman. And my mother recognized that she was under her clothes, completely beaten blue. And so this was very shocking for my mother. And she started very slowly and very sensibly to construct a relationship with this woman over years. And of course, it was pretty dangerous because her husband didn't like it at all, because he wanted to be her alone, to have her under absolutely control. But finally, my mother managed to get friends with her. And after years, she even started to stimulate her and to be a very important part of her emancipation. And when she has managed her emancipation, when she had an own flat, when she was divorced, when the husband was back in Turkey, when the children had finished school and had started to study at university, I was about 21 or 22, and I asked her if she would mind to tell me the story. And she said she would love to do it. And so finally, we spent some days in a tiny hut together. And in her garden, she had a small garden, and we stayed there for several days. And she told me the whole story, very trustful and very intimate. And so we had 60 hours of records for this story. And yes, and when I was so young, I was not able to tell the story because I had no language to do it. But 10 years after, I dared to start this project. So this is the reason how it worked, that the story came to me. And for me, it was very important to tell the story because I had the feeling that this woman needs a voice. And she wanted to have a voice. And I wanted to tell, I thought it's important to tell the story for her. But it's also very important for other people to get to know the story, to get to know a story about domestic violence.
Yes.
And so I wanted to give her this voice, and I was looking for a way to restore her dignity or to find the corrective of reality. So this was my motivation, actually. And yes, of course, the question if it was a surprise for me, the success. On the one hand, of course, absolutely.
A surprise, would say.
Yes, a big surprise on the one hand, but on the other hand, it was not, because I was writing my whole life. I was writing about, I don't know, maybe 1,000 poems, always searching for a language or trying to develop a language. And so I really wrestled for a language for this story for years. And it was really like, I don't know, it was a little bit like carrying out a child. I may say this because I have a child. It took over and over, it took years, and it was a very emotional, hard process, and a real wrestling for finding a way to do it. And finally I had the feeling, now it's big enough, and it's healthy, and it's ready to go. And so I was happy that it's really headed.
You just not told that you had 60 hours of recording. Now, to translate into a novel, how long did it take?
To be honest, 18 months at first. 18 months to have it at whole. I mean, of course, it took years and years to find, of writing, of searching this language, and it took years to think about it. But then finally, it was 18 months. And yes, and then it was very hard to find a publisher because nobody knew me. And yes, nobody knew me. And the publisher, they gets thousands of texts every day. And it's very hard to find somebody who is able to read it.
It must have been difficult. I can imagine it very well.
Yeah. So yeah, and when I found the publisher, it's
a good publisher, of course.
Yes, it was.
Very good publisher.
Definitely. Yeah. And then it took some more months to finish the work.
Your mother played a role of angel in her life. Okay. And when you started writing the story, did you take your mother's help while narrating the story again, or you did it independently?
Absolutely independently.
Absolutely independently.
Absolutely independently.
Right. Okay. I think cases of domestic violence are known all over the world. It's not uncommon, unusual thing. But this one was really extreme case. Did you ever come across someone accusing you in a veiled attire and saying that you have shared her story with the public without her permission? Did something of this kind happen to you sometime?
No, not at
Never.
all. No, not at all. But there are several points which are very important to understand. At first, the novel is based on true events.
Or a true events,
And
yeah.
I wouldn't have told the story without the permission of my protagonist, of course.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And I knew she wants to tell it. She had just had no possibility, no language. Yeah. And so I wanted to give her a voice or a language. And for her, it was a kind of emancipation to be
Even
able
she, even
to
she
tell
got a
her.
voice to you. Even she got a voice in you. You were her voice in narrating the story to the world.
Yes. It's an interesting expression. Is she a voice in me? Maybe I would say it's a huge amount of empathy, which is connecting us.
Naturally. It is
And
required. Otherwise, you wouldn't have done this.
no, otherwise it wouldn't be able to tell the story, of course. Yeah. And for her, she said, I mean, the word is it's my expression, but she had the feeling it's a kind of catharsis.
Mhm.
Because she one time she told me, you managed to transform my darkest experiences into light. So for her, it was actually a really good experience that the book was written.
Are you
Her
still
story.
in touch with her?
Hmm?
Are you still in touch with her?
I'm
With that
still in,
thing?
of course, yeah. I'm still in touch
That's
with her.
really good.
Yes.
Before I proceed to next question, there is one text which I find very shocking, and I would like you to read out. May I request you to read out that text, which is on page number 19 in your book? Then I'll read that in Hindi, and then I'll ask you the question.
Okay, perfect. You can do this. I'm looking for it because I have it on my screen. So it's easy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. In unserem Tal leben 100 blaue Frauen. Es gibt hellblaue Frauen wie Neklas Mutter und dunkelblaue Frauen wie die Mutter von Fidan. Es gibt blau-rote Frauen und blau-schwarze. Es gibt Frauen, die ihr Blau um den Hals tragen, wie einen Reif oder in der Vertiefung unter dem Hals, wie ein Medaillon. Manche tragen ihr Blau als Armband um das Handgelenk, manche um ihre Fesseln. Viele Frauen wechseln den Blauschmuck von Woche zu Woche, einige von Tag zu Tag. Manche lächeln immerzu, trotz ihres Blauschmucks, wie Laila. Manche schweigen im Blau, wie Sierra. Hellblaue Frauen werden zu dunkelblauen, blaurote zu blau-schwarzen. Dunkelblaue werden auch zu hellblauen, aber das ist selten. Und Frauen, die blau-schwarz tragen, wie Aische, geben die schwere Farbe nicht mehr her. Es gibt Frauen, deren Blauschmuck niemand kennt. Frauen, die ihn verbergen unter langen Kleidern, unter Tüchern, blaue Mädchen meist, wie Ili von Selin, die ihr Blau noch unsicher tragen, wie einen ersten Lippenstift. Der Blauschmuck der Frauen trägt die Handschrift der Männer. Das Werkzeug, Holz oder Eisen und die Anzahl der Schläge bestimmen den Blauton. Die blauen Frauen tragen die Farbe des Himmels. Wolkendurchzogener Sommerhimmel, eisiger Winterhimmel, unsteter Frühlingshimmel, grauer Herbsthimmel, Dämmerung, Regenbogen. Nur Sonnengül ist himmellos und ohne Blau. Wo sie auftaucht, verstummt das Gespräch. Was soll man reden mit der Himmellosen? Mit makelloser Haut spaziert sie durchs Dorf. Die Frauen wenden sich ab. Kein Wort, kein Gruß an die Himmellose. Sieh sie dir an, sagt meine Mutter und streicht mir mit ihrer blau-schwarzen Hand übers Haar. Weder klug noch fleißig und trotzdem nicht ein blauer Fleck. Solche gibt's auch, sagt sie. Leider. Wenn ich groß bin, werde ich eine blaue Frau. Ich hoffe auf einen Blauton, hell Wieder dahin.
Very nicely read. I hope I do justice with this text while reading in Hindi.
Okay. I'm very excited to hear it in Hindi.
हमारी घाटी में सैकड़ों नीली औरतें रहती हैं। कुछ हल्की नीली औरतें हैं जैसे कि नेगला की माँ, और कुछ गहरी नीली जैसे फिदान की माँ। नीली लाल औरतें हैं और नीली काली औरतें हैं। ऐसी औरतें हैं जिनके गले के चारों ओर नील होते हैं जैसे कि माला, या फिर गले के चारों ओर और नीचे जैसे कि मेडल। कई अपने नील बाजूबंद और कड़े की तरह पहने होती हैं, तो कई अपनी एड़ी के चारों ओर। कई औरतें अपने नीले जेवर हर हफ्ते बदलती हैं, कई हर दिन। बहुत सी औरतें अपने नीले जेवरों के बावजूद हमेशा मुस्कुराती रहती है जैसे कि लैला। कई अपने नील के साथ भी शांत रहती हैं जैसे जहरा। हल्की नीली औरतें गहरी नीली हो जाती हैं, लाल नीली, नीली काली। गहरी नीली हल्की नीली भी होती है, पर ऐसा बहुत कम होता है। और वे औरतें जो नीला काला जेवर पहने हैं जैसे कि आयशे, उनके जेवर तो कभी उतरते ही नहीं। ऐसी औरतें हैं जिनके जेवरों के बारे में किसी को पता नहीं होता। वे उन जेवरों को अपने लंबे कपड़ों में, दुपट्टों में छिपा लेती हैं। नीली लड़कियां एलिफ और सेलिम जो अपना नीला जेवर उसी अविश्वास के साथ पहने हैं जैसे कि पहली बार लगाई गई लिपस्टिक। औरतों के नीले जेवर उनके पतियों के पौरुष की पहचान है। नीलेपन की मात्रा इस बात पर निर्भर करती है कि किस औजार का इस्तेमाल किया गया और कितनी बार, लकड़ी या लोहा, और कितनी बार इस्तेमाल किया गया। नीली औरतें आसमान का रंग पहने होती हैं। बादलों के बीच से दिखता गर्मी का आसमान, बर्फीला जाड़ों का आसमान, बेचैन बसंत का आसमान, स्लेटी पतझड़ का आसमान, धुंधल का इंद्रधनुष। सिर्फ सोनड्यूल ही बिना आसमान के है और बिना किसी नीले जेवर के है। जहां भी वह जाती है बातचीत थम जाती है। जिनका कोई आसमान नहीं, उनसे कोई क्या बात करे। बेदाग त्वचा लिए वह गांव भर में घूमती रहती है। औरतें मुंह फेर लेती हैं। जिनका कोई आसमान नहीं, उनसे कोई बात नहीं, कोई दुआ सलाम नहीं। देखो, माँ ने कहा और अपने नीले काले हाथ मेरे बालों पर फेरे। ना बहुत बुद्धिमान, ना मेहनती, और फिर भी एक भी नीला जेवर नहीं। ऐसा भी होता है, उन्होंने कहा और एक आह भरी। Now I come to my question, Katharina.
This was a really great experience because it's like always like a miracle, like a kind of wonder to transform a text from one to the other language and to have the different melody and the difference. It's really.
And now I come to my question, Katharina. See, you were brought up in Austria, and you are narrating the story of a uneducated village girl. How could you find the verse which describe her situation? Like she has described her situation, her blue jewelry with the things around her, like the sky, the spots on the body, or her feelings, the jewelry. See, she's not educated, so she doesn't have fine words to express this thing. So she said in her own natural way. Did you find it difficult to find the parallel words to describe this? Or it came easily?
I mean, that's actually the creative work. Yeah? And I don't really want to analyze the creative process very detailed. But what I can tell you is that when she was telling me the story, she had very rudimentary language. It was not, because she was not she was not that long in Austria, so it was not a very good German. And her language was not in fixed lanes. It was not eloquent. It was not conventionally. She tried to communicate with me because she really wanted. It was her need to tell me her intimate, her traumatic experiences. And so she was really in a need to find words, or she needed to invent a language out of the moment, and it was coming very deeply out of her subconscious. And it's really interesting because I can still see her gestures. They are fixed on the records. So sometimes there's just silence, but I still remember her gestures. She was communicating with her hands and with her face and with her eyes, of course, and inventing new words. And this was a really good base, because it's easier. It was a free language, and I was completely free to find a new language, a poetically way to tell the story. You know?
Okay, you narrated a story of a village girl. She is uneducated, and she has narrated her story and used all the examples from her surroundings, which she is aware of, like sky or jewelry or the feelings. She never had good language to express her feelings or her agony. So, did you find it very difficult to describe her situation, find words which would suit her narration and not of a very educated person? So, was it a special effort or it came smoothly to you?
So it's actually, this is the creative process. So I really don't want it for myself to analyze it very detailed. But what I can tell you is that her language, she was not for such a long time in Austria when we were talking to each other about this story. So it was a very rudimentary German, a rudimentary language, and it was not eloquent. It was not very conventionally. It was not a fixed language. So it was, for her, it was a big need to find solutions to communicate her intimate and traumatic experiences to me. And so she needed to invent a language, and she did it with her hands and with her face and with her eyes. And it was really a really free way to communicate. But this was actually a good way for me, because it was not, it was absolute, I was completely free to find my language for this story. Yeah?
But you could accomplish this very successfully, I must admit this. Very successful.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. It's and what I want to tell you is that for me it was so important that it's not a point of view from outside to watch this language. I wanted to be really into this girl, into my protagonist, into the soul of my protagonist, because I wanted that it's part. I thought in the soul, that's the most archaic mechanism of human being, and it's best. There's the greatest chance for the reader to identify with, and to find the connecting points. And I think then maybe it's possible to get empathy with the protagonist. And if you manage to get empathy, maybe the understanding is following. And if you have it with one human, then you can extend it to a whole collective. And I think that this is the most important task of literature, to produce empathy, because I think I mean, nearly all our problems are based on a lack of empathy.
During this transition, while I was reading and translating this novel, there were so many instances when she was beaten black and blue and constant violence and all kind of things, atrocities she come across. So it was not only crying, it was not your tears rolling down your eyes. It was something you feel like drained out after reading this. Oh God, when it is going to end, where it is going to end, why it is not going to end, where it is going to lead. So there's a page, page number 46. There's a text she describes wearing jeans. I think that comes as a cool breeze after a strong day of sunshine and heat. Would you like to read that text? Yeah, that's on page number 46. She's wearing jeans.
Okay. I have to look for it. Okay. Man muss den Knopf einer Jeans öffnen, den kupferfarbenen oder silbernen. Man muss den Reißverschluss nach unten ziehen, die Öffnung für die Hüfte mit beiden Händen auseinanderhalten, auf einem Bein stehen wie ein Storch und mit dem anderen Bein in ein Hosenbein schlüpfen. Man muss die Zehen strecken, damit der Fuß schmal wird und so den ganzen Weg durch das lange Hosenbein findet, bis die Zehen auf der anderen Seite des blauen Tunnels ans Licht kommen und der Fuß endlich auf neuem Boden steht. Und dann das andere Bein biegen, die Zehen strecken, den schmal gewordenen Fuß durch den zweiten blauen Tunnel stecken und auf den Boden stellen, der erste Schritt in ein neues Leben.
Sehr schön gelesen. Very nicely read, Katharina. इंसान को पहले जीन्स का बटन खोलना पड़ता है जो तांबे का या चांदी के रंग का होता है। जिप को नीचे खींचना पड़ता है। खुल जाने के बाद दोनों हाथों से कूल्हे पर अलग अलग पकड़ना होता है। सारस की तरह एक पैर पर खड़ा होना होता है और दूसरे पैर को पैंट के पायछे में सरकाना होता है। इंसान को पंजे को खींचना होता है ताकि पांव सकरा हो जाए और पूरे पायचे से तब तक रास्ता बना सके जब तक कि पंजे नीली सुरंग के अगले छोर पर उजाले तक ना आ जाए और पैर अंत में नई जमीन पर खड़ा हो जाए। फिर दूसरा पांव पंजे को खींचना, सक्रिय हो गए पांव को दूसरी नीली सुरंग में घुसाना और जमीन पर डालना। नए जीवन में पहला कदम। So I think this comes as a mood changer, which was very much required for the readers. And I just wanted to ask you, did you put this text here intentionally, or again it came while storytelling automatically?
I mean, it's both actually. On the one hand, it comes automatically. On the other hand, of course, when you're in finishing the text, then you start to change.
Drama verse you have put in this description. That's very important. That's really mood changer for the reader.
Absolutely, and it shows the naivety of the young girl, and I think this is very important for understanding her behavior. And it also shows the beautiful, the innocence of the girl and the beautiful soul and the trust into life and the vitality and the courage to go on living. This is very important, that this girl has such a powerful, and also the woman, powerful soul. And it's not just a story of a victim. It's also the story of a hero, because she has all these experiences and she really goes through hell, but she's able to come out of the other side of hell. She's climbing out, and she's her heart, her soul is unbroken, and she has still a fascinating amount of vitality. And she has still a fascinating amount of courage to go on living. And this was, for me, was very important. And I also wanted to transform this power into language. And this is also the reason why I found this poetic language, because it shows that the beauty, the poetry, the power, the trust into life, the metaphysics can exist without denying violence, brutality, but also without subjugation, without submitting to brutality.
It's really so sad to read that her dream of blue jeans turns into reality of blue jewelry.
Mm.
And we are so saddened and disheartened by reading this. But I think you brought this text because you wanted to bring optimism in the novel and wanted to take the reader towards the ray of hope. And what I find the most important aspect of this novel is the positive end, because that's the most important achievement. After, despite of so much of atrocities, so much of troubles, loneliness, she was all alone to face all these problems. There was nobody except for the foreigners among whom she was living. Of course, these people helped her a lot, but there was no one from her family who one looks upon when one is in problem. So despite of having this difficult stage, no one from the family with her, but of course with the support of the people in Austria, she is able to cope up this and give her life a meaning and raise the children and make them a successful citizen. That is perhaps the most important outcome of this novel. I would request you to read the last page of this novel. Would you please?
Yes, okay, looking for Am 1. August 1998 verständigten die Nachbarn der Familie Sahil Notarztpolizei. Der Notarzt brachte Felice in die Klinik. Halil, Selin, Seda wurden vom Jugendamt in Obhut genommen. 3 Monate später wurde Felice aus dem Krankenhaus entlassen und konnte gemeinsam mit ihren Kindern ein Frauenhaus beziehen. Im Herbst des folgenden Jahres wurde sie von Yunus Sahin amtlich geschieden und nahm wieder ihren Mädchennamen an. Yunus wurde der Kontakt zu seinen Kindern gerichtlich untersagt. Felice Lale begann eine Lehre zur Köchin. Nach 18 Monaten im Frauenhaus bezogen Felice und die Kinder eine eigene Wohnung. Nachdem sie ihre Lehrabschlussprüfung erfolgreich abgelegt hatte, arbeitete Felice 14 Jahre als Köchin in einem Gastbetrieb. Berufsbegleitend absolvierte sie einen Lehrgang für psychosoziale und sozialpsychiatrische Arbeit an der Universität Klagenfurt. Sie arbeitet heute als akademische Fachkraft für Sozialpsychiatrie in einer Sozialeinrichtung in Oberösterreich. Halil absolvierte eine Ausbildung zum Zahntechniker, studierte im Anschluss Biologie und Deutsch an der Pädagogischen Hochschule Wien und arbeitet heute als Hauptschullehrer in Wien. Selin leistete nach ihrer Matura ein freiwilliges soziales Jahr in einem Waisenhaus in Costa Rica. Sie studierte Spanisch und Geschichte an der Universität Wien und der Universidad de Cádiz und ist als Lektorin an einer spanischen Universität tätig. Seda arbeitet als Kanzleileiterin an einem Bezirksgericht in Wien. Sie hat im August 2015 in Istanbul ihren türkischen Cousin geheiratet, der nun mit ihr in Österreich lebt. Yunus Sahin kehrte nach Schwierigkeiten mit den österreichischen Behörden in die Türkei zurück. Er heiratete noch einmal und bekam 3 Kinder. Halil, Selin und Seda.
Very nice, very nice. Very positive and very nicely read. Katharina, I would read that in Hindi. 1 अगस्त 1998 को शाहीन परिवार के पड़ोसियों ने आकस्मिक चिकित्सा विभाग और पुलिस को सूचना दी। आकस्मिक चिकित्सा अधिकारी फिलिस को अस्पताल लेकर आए। हलील, सेलिन और सेडा को ओभूट के बाल कल्याण कार्यालय ने अपने संरक्षण में ले लिया। 3 माह पश्चात फिलिस को अस्पताल से छुट्टी मिल गई और उसने अपने बच्चों के साथ एक नारी गृह में शरण ली। उसका यूनुस शाहीन के साथ संबंध विच्छेद हो गया और उसने अपना पूर्व नाम अपना लिया। यूनुस को अपने बच्चों से मिलने की कानूनी तौर पर मनाही हो गई। फिलिस लाले ने खाना बनाने का काम सीखना शुरू किया। 18 महीनों बाद नारी गृह से निकलकर फिलिस और उसके बच्चे एक नए घर में चले गए। अपने कोर्स को खत्म करने के बाद इम्तिहान पास करके फिलिस ने 14 सालों तक एक गेस्ट हाउस में खाना बनाने का काम किया। काम करने के साथ साथ उसने सफलतापूर्वक सोशल साइकियाट्री में क्लागेनफोर्ट विश्वविद्यालय में एक प्रशिक्षण लिया। आज वह अपर ऑस्ट्रिया के सामाजिक प्रतिष्ठान में सामाजिक मनोविज्ञान की तरह शिक्षक की तरह कार्यरत है। खलील ने दांतों के टेक्नीशियन का प्रशिक्षण सफलतापूर्वक पूरा किया। साथ ही साथ वियना विश्वविद्यालय में जीव विज्ञान और जर्मन भाषा पढ़ी और आज सेकेंडरी स्कूल के शिक्षक के रूप में कार्यरत है। सेलिन ने स्कूल फाइनल के बाद स्वैच्छिक समाज सेवा के लिए कोस्टारिका के अनाथालय में काम किया। उसने वियना विश्वविद्यालय और कार्डिस विश्वविद्यालय में स्पेनिश और इतिहास की पढ़ाई की और आज एक स्पेनिश विश्वविद्यालय में प्राध्यापक है। सेडा वियना में क्षेत्रीय न्यायालय के प्रशासनिक कार्यालय की निदेशक है। अगस्त 2015 में उसने अपने तुर्की चचेरे भाई से शादी कर ली, जो अब उसके साथ ऑस्ट्रिया में रहता है। ऑस्ट्रिया के अधिकारियों के साथ बड़ी मुश्किलों के बाद यूनुस शाहीन तुर्की वापस चला गया। उसने एक बार फिर से शादी कर ली और 3 बच्चों को जन्म दिया, खलील, सेलिन और सेगा। So, Katharina, meine Frage ist, Katharina, my question is, when you listen this in Hindi, what feeling you get?
To be honest, I get a feeling for. I mean, I wouldn't say I get a feeling, but I get an imagination for all the Indian people, Indian women, mainly, I guess, who are reading this and who maybe have their own, or for sure have their own associations. And I can feel all these experiences which are possible to connect with this text. Or I'm excited about this.
That was really a wonderful experience to talk with you. But before we end, I would like to ask you one more question. In your further projects, would you like to write this kind of novels only, or you would like to venture out some other topics with some other topics?
It's, right at the moment I'm already working on the second novel. It's pretty far actually, and it's both. It's of course it's not the same topic. On the one hand, you can say it's a completely different topic because it's not in another cultural context. It's in the Austrian cultural context, a geographic context, and but it's also about a woman in a very difficult situation, domestic situation, who needs to emancipate.
It is a chance that we are discussing this today. Today is International Women's Day, and we are discussing this novel today. That's a chance.
Yeah.
So I have heard that this novel has been translated into various languages. I think 6 languages.
Yeah, and even more, even 9, I think.
Okay. Yeah. My knowledge is then
yeah, okay.
old. So I wish lot success for this novel. May this novel come in many more languages, reach out to every corner of the world, and you have this type of conversation with all the language experts in all the countries, and wish you all the best for the next coming book. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And for me, it's a real pleasure that it's possible that my book, written on the small table, is managed the whole way around the Earth, planet Earth, actually, half of planet Earth, and it's really, for me, it's really touching that we all of us, we have the same. We feel deeply. We feel the same. We feel the same love, we feel the same suffering, we feel the same kinds of human being. Thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you so much, Katharina, for being here. Thank you, JLF, Jaipur Literature Festival, for giving us this opportunity to speak about this novel. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Katharina and Shipra, for that insightful conversation. This session is presented by the Goethe Institute Max Muller Bhavan and is a part of Jaipur BookMark. And thank you all for watching and being such a great audience. Please stay logged on to continue to watch with us the series of exciting sessions featuring a stellar list of speakers that have been specially curated for you. Stay tuned for the next session.